At Vinton County National Bank, we believe in supporting the areas where we live and work. Now, we'd like to honor those who also serve our communities. Our new Community Champions account is especially for first responders, veterans, active military, and anyone employed in the fields of healthcare or education. This account offers rewards, discounts, and other benefits to those who give so much to others. Vinton County National Bank, rewarding those who serve.
Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at belisiofoods.com/careers.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Main Street TV. On this morning's program, we will be discussing Issue 1. A special election is going to be held in Ohio on August 8th, and there's only one thing on the ballot, Issue 1. Issue 1 asks Ohio voters to consider an amendment to the state constitution. The amendment, if approved, will elevate the standards by which the Constitution of the state of Ohio may be amended to requiring at least 60% of the vote to be approved. On the show today, we will hear from local attorney Bill Martin and retired social studies teacher Dennis Reinhart, who will be speaking in opposition of Issue 1. Later on, we will hear from Ohio House Representative Bob Peterson, who represents the 91st District, which includes Jeffersonville, Washington Courthouse, Greenfield, and Hillsboro, speaking in support of Issue 1. We know that this is a very important topic, and we hope that a lot of people will take the time to watch today's episode. We understand that this is a long show, and not everybody has the time to sit and watch an hour of TV on their phone, on Facebook, or on YouTube, or even listen on the radio. And so if you don't have time, we would encourage you to seek out this information in the Wednesday, July 19th edition of the Telegram. There is an insert that has the full ballot language for Issue 1. It has a short explanation. It has the full ballot language, and it also has a sort of shortened to the point argument both for and against Issue 1. And again, this was printed in the Wednesday, July 19th edition of the Telegram. This can also easily be found online by simply searching Ohio Issue 1. The first in Google, the first result will be the Ohio Secretary of State's office. And if you click that link, it will download the same PDF that was inserted in the newspaper, and that has all of this information. That being said, we hope you take the time to watch today's episode or listen wherever you are. This will be available on demand later, so if you can't watch live, please consider watching later today. Early voting is already going on, and that special election will be officially held on August 8th. Without any more introduction, we will go ahead and get into the first part of our video, which again will feature local attorney Bill Martin and retired teacher Dennis Reinhart speaking in opposition of Issue 1. And later we will hear from Ohio House Representative Bob Peterson, who will be speaking in support of Issue 1. So enjoy this video.
Well, we are here to talk about Issue 1, and we have a couple of guests here kind of on the anti side of the vote no on Issue 1 side. Could you all introduce yourselves?
Certainly. I'm Bill Martin. I'm a retired attorney.
I'm Dennis Reinhart. I'm a retired social studies teacher from Jackson City Schools.
That's right. And welcome. We're so happy to have you two here today to kind of give your take on Issue 1, as our job here is to inform the community, right? That's what we're going to do today. Okay, so could you kind of just give a little bit of a nutshell about what you think issue 1 is?
Yes, issue 1 talks about amending the Ohio Constitution. As we know in our country, we have the federal system, federal United States Constitution, and we have the states with state constitutions, and of course we also have local governments with local laws, ordinances. We're talking here about the state constitution. The state constitution has a fundamental law of what goes on in the state of Ohio, but because it's at the state level, these in other states as well tend to be longer and more detailed than other kinds of constitutions. It's intended as a kind of a living document to handle large issues as they come up. Now, amending the Constitution, there are 2 ways commonly used to amend the Ohio Constitution. One way is by the legislature's resolution. The legislature adopts in both houses by a 3/5 majority a resolution saying, here's the constitutional amendment. That goes off to the ballot for people to vote on. The other way is really why we're sitting here, and that's the Citizens Initiative Petition. The Citizens Initiative Petition requires that there be a petition out in the community, and at least 44 counties in Ohio must qualify with qualifying signatures. And I believe the number is something like 5% of the voters in the previous gubernatorial.
Exactly, yeah.
So in Jackson, it was 400 and some. Statewide, over 400,000 ballot signatures are required. In 44 counties have to qualify. That's very, very difficult. It does happen on occasion. Dennis has got some numbers to tell you how often it's happened, how often it's been successful. It's hard to do.
It is. The initiative ballot we have was instituted in 1912, which is 111 years ago. There have been 79 initiative ballots introduced for the voters of Ohio to vote on. During that time, only 19 have passed. It's extremely hard under the current system to do that.
Okay.
Now, of the ballots initiated by the General Assembly, 126 have been accepted by the people of the state of Ohio. So it's a very difficult thing to do. And as Bill said, the Ohio Constitution is a living document. It was meant to handle things such as bond issues and other things that come up that would not come up in the federal government. We are not a federation of independent states. We are a single entity, and we have the ballot initiative, which the federal government does not.
No,
it's comparing oranges and apples and saying they're the same thing. They're not.
Now let's talk a little bit about what the state issue 1 does. If adopted, the previous practice was once these ballot issues to amend the Constitution gets on the ballot, they have to be adopted since 1912 by 50% plus 1. Mm-hmm. That's majority rule.
Mm-hmm. So one person, one vote is kind of
I think part of what we have to understand here is this: in Ohio, our practice for over 100 years has been majority vote for constitutional amendments. State issue 1 would jack that up to 60% of the vote in order to pass one.
Okay.
And that's very, very difficult. Also, issue 1 would say, if you're going to have a citizens initiative petition, you don't have to qualify in 44 states. You have to qualify in 88 states.
88 counties.
Now, what part of what we need to remember is, as far as citizens initiative petitions goes, one county can screw it up, can say no, and 41% of the voters can say no. And you have to ask yourself, is that majority rule? Is that democracy? That's really the core of what this issue is about. Dennis, I believe, may have some numbers on some of the kinds of initiatives that have passed.
That was going to be my next question.
Okay,
Good. Glad you have that.
60%.
All right, we've had so many beneficial things passed that could not reach a 60% majority. In 2005, Governor Taft, a Republican, had a program called the Third Frontier Program. Mm-hmm. And basically it was to modernize Ohio's economy and business. And it's still helping Ohioans today. It passed with 54% of the vote. That's all it could get. It could not get 60%. So today it would not be able to be implemented under issue 1. More recently, in 2015, a ballot initiative was passed to bar the use of the amending process for businesses to create monopolies. It passed by 51%. 2006, minimum wage was increased. It passed by 57%. There were tax credits in 1990 and other steps to help housing projects. They passed by 53%. In 1982, there was a ballot initiative that enabled low-interest first-time home buyers program that allowed people to be able to buy homes in Ohio. It passed by 57%. It would not be used. And if you look back over our history, there's everything from things that dealt with racial equality to protecting the people as far as tax levies, how high these tax levies could be before the people had to vote on them. Okay, so there is a multitude of things that have been beneficial to the people of Ohio that would not be in place today. And that just shows you these were good things. And that just shows you how difficult it is to pass a ballot initiative. And going back to what Bill said about the 88 counties, one of the arguments they have is that it's to protect Ohio from corruption and outside influences. If you have 88 counties, what that does is make corruption easier, because all an outside interest has to do is go into one county and pour money into that county and to influence the board of elections in that county, and everybody in that county. That's one county. They take that county, then they stop the entire thing that the people of Ohio might want, the majority of the people. So it doesn't lessen corruption. It creates opportunities for it, is what it does.
Okay. Totally understandable. It's interesting how to think of things both ways, and this is such an interesting topic. I'm loving this.
Well, there's one fact that former Governor Robert Taft pointed out in a letter to the legislators. Bob Taft, Republicans, Taft, pretty much associated together over the years. He wrote a letter to the legislature in which he opposed State Issue 1.
Was this recently?
It was while it was pending in the legislature before the 3/5 vote.
Okay.
I can look at part of it here. Based on my experience as governor, I believe it would be a mistake to raise the voter approval threshold for amendments to the Ohio Constitution to 60%. Bob Taft was an economic development guy. Mm-hmm. He liked economic development programs. Up until at least recently, the Republican Party has been economic development oriented folks. And Bob Taft said, I urge you to remember that the Ohio Constitution contains a $750,000 limit on debt the state can incur absent a public vote. For the state to be able to issue general obligation debt to finance or build highways or schools, to protect the environment, create jobs, you must persuade voters to approve an amendment to the Constitution. With a 60% voter approval requirement, such initiative may become impossible in the years to come.
I mean, you can't, well, I could see that because you can't get people to agree whether the sky is blue or not anymore.
Well,
so.
Dennis just pointed out to you several instances in which, yes, there were majority votes, but not 60%.
Every one of those was a majority, but it would not have reached the threshold that they have set.
Part of what we have to face here is that in practical terms, both with the 88 county requirement and the 60% requirement, what you're doing is freezing the status quo. And what's the status quo? Well, the Speaker of the House recently got 20 years. Mm-hmm. The leader of the Republican Party recently got 5 years. Why? State legislature corruption. This is a desperate attempt by the corrupt state legislature to freeze the status quo to their advantage.
And what you have to understand, the more people that they cut out of the process, they're asking people to give up a right of democracy. They're trying to make it more difficult to exercise. The more people you cut out, what you have is minority rule. And in every place that there's been minority rule in the world, there has been corruption. Okay. So when you look at these signs that say protect our Constitution, who are they protecting it from? Okay. Are they protecting it from outside interests? No. The guy that is bankrolling the entire yes effort is a billionaire from Illinois. And he's doing a similar thing in other states. Okay. Are they protecting us from corruption? Obviously not. Bill just explained. The ballot initiative didn't cause that. The ballot initiative is the answer to that. It allows the people of Ohio, if the General Assembly won't address it, to address if there is corruption in Ohio. So when they're asking, protect our Constitution, you got to think, if they're asking you to give a write-up that makes it more difficult to exercise democracy, okay, what they want to do is cut as many people out as far as their voice as they can. And, there's a reason for that, okay? If you cut through all this other stuff, the reason is that they have a supermajority in the General Assembly, and that is due to gerrymandering. Okay, they are afraid that a ballot initiative at some point in the future is going to address this gerrymandering.
Could you explain that, please?
Okay, gerrymandering is this. You draw up voting districts to give you an advantage that you will never lose an election. So you cut out voters you don't want in that district, and you draw them squiggly, whatever, to make it so you can win elections constantly. And what that does is you don't have no accountability to the voters. And so they've had this gerrymandering for a while. The voters of Ohio, 70% of the voters of Ohio voted that this needs to be redrawn. They ignored 7 court orders from the state Supreme Court, they being the supermajority in the General Assembly. They ignored that, and they kept running the clock out till the last election. So we had to use the same map. Okay, so technically, they are in violation of the Constitution. It's unconstitutional, and technically it's illegal. They are afraid that eventually the people of Ohio will address this by the initiative ballot. They want to make it more difficult for us to do so to protect that power. And basically, cut through everything, that's what it is. It's a question of power and maintaining power.
Okay, and I understand what you're saying there. And a lot of folks have brought up 2 issues that I've heard, and then I was going to ask you all what questions that you've received, because I think that's fair of what people are thinking, out there. But the first issue that I've heard is this is about abortion. The second issue I have heard is that this is about legalizing marijuana, and that some side, the other side would not want either of those passed. They're trying to perhaps influence the vote by passing this, or trying to sneak this initiative in. What would you say about that?
The abortion, we don't necessarily say abortion. We would prefer reproductive rights, and we think people ought to have reproductive rights. Go ahead and say that. But that's likely to go onto the ballot as an issue in November. That explains why they're squeezing this in August. If you're really trying to save the Ohio Constitution, why would you sneak it in an August election when, as far as they know, 8 or 10 people 10% of the people would show up to vote?
And you got to look at it this way.
It's a very cynical attempt to do this.
Okay.
And now there are lots of issues you can point out. I'm sure the gun people would say, but they can have a ballot initiative to take away all our guns. Well, at some point, the people probably ought to have a say in it. And as Dennis points out repeatedly, vote your conscience when the time comes.
You can do that. What they're not telling you is this. You can vote your conscience later on abortion and on guns. But if you give up a right on August 8th, you lose that right forever. You have another chance with abortion, with guns, whatever. But if you lose this, now it's 60%, no matter what people want, and it's going to be difficult to attain. You can repeal laws as well as add laws with the ballot initiative. Suppose these people do not like a law. Now it takes 60%. They can't do it. Okay, it's almost an impossibility to do it. So they have to think further down the line, what are you trading? What are you giving up? And what you're trading is democracy. Okay? And you have an opportunity to exercise that democracy the way you want later. But if you lose it on August 8th, it's gone forever.
Yeah. We're afraid you're going to be frozen out at 60% with respect to the Constitution.
Okay.
And this is a right we've had for over 100 years.
Yeah, since 1912. So here's the thing that bothers me, I think, and we are running out of time here, but we want to, because we want to be fair to both sides. But I think it's very important for you all out there, this is my opinion, to understand that this issue is not about one thing. It's not about abortion or reproductive rights or marijuana or the next thing that comes up. This is one issue in dealing with the state constitution.
And it's your future.
So don't let your feelings toward that topic. This is a vote on its own. Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's not, they don't go hand in hand.
The 60% thing, if passed, would likely be forever.
Yeah,
It's so difficult to get back. And Ohio has places to go and things to do.
sure.
Someday we're going to have to do some economic development and need a bond issue in excess of $750,000. I can just see that coming down the road. Can't you?
Sure.
Of course you can. How are you going to do it with 60% can't? This is not smart.
All right, fair enough. And I think we have a couple of minutes if you all wanted to, focus on maybe a closing statement.
Okay, I'll pull no punches here. And, issue one is kind of born out of self-interest. It's a lack of concern for others, and it has to do with a minority. Some of that minority has to do with being greedy. Okay, it's gathering its support through a lot of misinformation, and it's feeding fear and ignorance, And its purpose is to basically take away the rights of the majority in lieu of what the minority would have. And you have to ask yourself this, or I ask myself this, if something is born out of self-interest, they're using push-button fear things. They're using fear, greed, and, deceiving people. That has no merit or advantage or moral purpose for the common sense people of Ohio. And that's the last thing I want to say.
Okay, fair enough. Bill?
To suppose that by voting yes on issue one in August is to save the Ohio Constitution, I think is painting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. Thank you.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we cannot thank you enough for your words and for your thoughts this morning. We hope that you have made people's decisions maybe a little easier one way or the other. That's why this forum is happening. And, as a community channel, we are here to inform our viewers, and we hope that you all get out there. If you need to read some things, if you need to, hopefully this has answered a lot of your questions, but we really just hope you get out and vote August 8th. It is a special
You can
election,
vote now.
and you
Vote
can
early.
vote now
Yes.
and
early.
vote early. And you can get out and exercise your vote one way or the other, however it is. What was your phrase?
About democracy?
Yes.
Okay, it's not a Republican thing. It's not a Democratic thing. It's a democracy thing.
So get out, exercise your rights. All right, today we are joined by State Representative Bob Peterson, who is currently serving his first term as state representative for the 91st Ohio House District, which includes our neighbors, all of Fayette, Highland, and Pike counties and Western Ross counties. So we want to thank him, and we are going to be discussing issue one and maybe get to the bottom of some of the questions that you all have and maybe any misconceptions or just different things that people are wondering. And we would love to have those things addressed today from our representative. And we want to thank you so much for joining us today, Representative Bob Peterson. Thank you. Welcome.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be with you. Sorry I can't be in person today, but yeah, and I also had the pleasure of representing Jackson County, Vinton County, Gallia, Lawrence, all those counties down there for 11 years in the Ohio Senate. So you're very familiar, and it's great to be with you again.
Well, that's so correct. And yes, I'm sure that your name and face is very familiar to many of our viewers down here in the area. Those darn term limits get to you, though, don't they?
No, that's just fine. That's just fine.
Well, we're happy to have you in the house.
And it's a whole lot easier to cover 4 counties rather than the 10 counties I served for 11 years. Although I truly do miss the people down there, and serving that area. But so it's great to visit with you today, talking about an important issue. A constitutional amendment should be very important, and it's important for voters to know what they're voting on and make sure they show up to vote on August 8th, just a few weeks away.
You are correct, and this is sneaking up on us very quickly. And what I would like to talk about today is, we contacted several people. You were gracious enough to come in and kind of talk the pro side of the constitutional amendment we'll be voting on. So we thank you for that, and we will get right to that and try to answer some questions that our viewers have. But that special election, again, this is a special election. And could you kind of maybe, inform our viewers a little bit about what that means? Because it's not the normal election in November.
Yeah, we're very used to voting in November and for the primary in March or May. And, we have special dates in August and then earlier in the year for elections that don't quite fit that cycle. And that's what this one does. And I think it'll be great. I think people will turn out. I think it's a constitutional amendment. It's truly important. And this one's fairly simple. I am urging a yes vote. I supported it on the House floor. I actually spoke on the House floor to put this before voters this August. So I'm excited to have it before voters. A constitutional amendment is very simple. This one, it protects our Ohio Constitution by making sure that the issues we're putting forward have strong support, not just a little bit of support, but strong support. So it raises the threshold from 50% to 60% to pass a constitutional amendment. Again, regular laws can be passed 50-50. Taxes, increased taxes on schools can be 50-50. But our founding document, the Ohio Constitution, should be protected at a higher standard. So this amendment that I would encourage a yes for does three things. One, it raises the threshold for passage from 50% to 60%. Secondly, it doesn't allow people to cherry pick which counties they go collect signatures from. Currently, only 44 counties have to have signatures collected in them. I think it's important that all 88 counties, people are going to propose a constitutional amendment, they should know what all 88 counties. And quite frankly, most of the counties I represent are counties that they ignore, places like Jackson and Vinton and Gallia and Lawrence. They just don't travel down there to collect signatures because it's hard. It's easier to collect them in Columbus or Cincinnati or Dayton or Cleveland. And I think the voices of Appalachia are just as important. So I'm strongly in support of 88 counties being included in the signature gathering. We shouldn't cherry pick that. And then the third thing that this amendment does is right now we have a cure period. So when you collect all these signatures and then turn them in to the Board of Elections, you get a second chance at it. 2 or 3 weeks later, you get to turn in another batch of signatures in case you didn't quite have enough. Well, when I file my petitions for office, or anybody filing petitions for office, or filing tax increases at your local school board or something, all those tax bills, those all they only have one date. And in reality, this is more of an efficiency measure than anything else. Currently, under our system, where they have a second shot at it, a second chance, the Board of Elections, our local officials, have to go through all those ballots both times. And then just simply, we should have a date when the signatures have to be right, and we should just have one date. We don't need to have two. No other issue or person on our ballot has two shots to correct signatures. It either has to be right or it's not. So 3 simple things that you're voting on.
Well, that makes total sense. And you've put it very, very, very well, so that I think that's very, very clear. A couple things that I was thinking about as you were speaking. How often would voters vote on something that would change our state constitution? In the past, how often does that happen?
Sure. So under our, maybe if you allow me, let's step back. So the U.S. Constitution, we're all familiar with, has had 27 amendments to the U.S. Constitution in our 247 years of life as a country. We've made 27 amendments. 10 of those, if you remember your history lesson, happened almost immediately. The first 10 amendments were the Bill of Rights, providing things like freedom of speech, the Second Amendment protecting our gun rights. So the first 10 happened just right away. They were kind of things that they didn't agree to in the Constitution, but needed to add later. So for basically almost 250 years, we've only made 17 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. You compare that to the Ohio Constitution, which has had 172 amendments added to it, dramatically different. And that's obvious from the length of our Constitution. The U.S. Constitution has 7,591 words in it. 7,591 words, easily read in a few hours. The Ohio Constitution, by contrast, has over 67,000 words to it. It's not a founding document. It's a legalese. It's all these things that really don't need to be in our Constitution because we haven't protected it. We've allowed out-of-state people to go buy our Constitution, and I can give you examples.
Sure. No, and I think that I understand exactly what you're saying. And that's a really good history lesson in the fact that our national constitution has been messed with way less than the state. So
Yeah, and
that's
probably,
interesting.
and I would argue that the 17, Bill of Rights, and then the other 17 amendments added in the U.S. Constitution are great. I mean, they're well thought out. They were argued about for years before they actually joined our U.S. Constitution, and that's not necessarily the case in the Ohio Constitution. We respond to 30-second ads on TV or the radio, and those are great. You'll probably hear me urging a yes vote, and you may hear the other side offering a different opinion. But we don't have the depth of the discussion like we do in the legislature or like we have on a congressional amendment, where the U.S. Constitution, as an example, it takes 75% of the states to approve. 3/4 of the states have to approve it. It takes a supermajority out of Congress to put it before the states. And right now, we don't have any of that protection in Ohio, and it's reflected in our Constitution. The
Let me
biggest
ask you this.
example. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks,
No,
Joe.
go ahead.
I was going to say the biggest example, of out-of-state people buying our Constitution would very much be the casinos. Whether gambling is, putting those 4 casinos is good or bad for the state. That's a discussion that we can and should have. But what's very obvious is that we didn't get a very good deal because investors from out of state said that we should put this in front of the voters, and they did. And they bought the right to build 4 casinos.
Mm-hmm.
And while they pay billions of dollars in taxes, what most states collect are billions and billions of taxes. So they gave themselves a sweetheart deal, and they actually gave the specific location of property that they owned or had under contract on where the casino should be. So in our Constitution, it lists a specific address and property deeds on where the 4 casinos could be built.
Interesting.
And
Well,
that's the
you know where
Supreme
one
Court.
didn't get
It's in the
built?
Constitution.
Right
It's
here
in
in
the
our area.
Yeah.
They forgot about us down here, right?
And they probably didn't collect signatures in Jackson County.
You're
Because they
right
didn't
about
have to. And it
so
remains
so
a big
true.
county in
So
Benton County.
so what do other states do? I'm curious about that. Where do we fall in the midst of other states in the union?
Yeah, so only 18 states. We were one of only 18 states that allow a citizen-led Constitution amendment to go into the Constitution. One of only 18. And of those 18, almost all the others have some sort of restrictions that are far greater than Ohio. Either a higher voter threshold like 60% or 66% or 55%, or it's harder to get a ballot. It takes more signatures. It takes signatures from every congressional district or signatures from every legislative district. And in the 18 states that allow it, it's much harder in almost all the states to put an initiative before the ballot than it is in Ohio.
Okay, and I was just curious about that, where we fall, within all of the other states here.
No, you're helping my case. We're in the vast minority of states that allow this, and their constitutions reflect that they're protecting their constitution.
Okay, there you go. Let me ask you this. What are some of the common misconceptions that you're hearing, or maybe common questions out there that people might be a little bit confused about?
Yeah, so it primarily are the things that we've talked about. What is the need? Well, the need is protect special interests from. Why do we need to do this, and why should it be a higher threshold? And it's pretty obvious because of the difference between the U.S. Constitution and the Ohio Constitution on what's in it and all the amendments, and comparing to other states, it's obvious. So, so the threat that's out there from special interest groups, outside of a state in almost all cases, there are people gathering signatures right now to legalize marijuana. There are people gathering signatures to raise the minimum wage up to $25 per hour. There are people that would take away hunting rights and the ability to raise livestock in this state. There are people gathering signatures to take away qualified immunity that allows our police and firemen to have protection if they're doing things legally within their job description. Certainly, the abortion issue in November is going to be on the ballot, we would anticipate. And then, the current rights that are guaranteed in our Ohio Constitution, they're harder to take away at a 60% level than they would be at 50%. These current rights would be like protecting the Second Amendment, the ability to have and own a gun, the ability of freedom of speech. All these things are at greater threat if we don't protect our Constitution.
Okay, fair enough. And I was teetering on whether to bring this up or not, but you did it, so I think it's fair game now.
Everything's
One of the I'm going to get you. One of the biggest things that I hear is, well, this is the Republicans trying to sneak this in before the abortion issue comes up in the fall. What say you?
So that's not for me. I mean, in fact, you can go back probably 15, 20 years ago. I know 15, maybe 20. I had the great honor and pleasure. I'm a farmer from up in Fayette County. I had the pleasure of serving as president of the Ohio Farm Bureau. And we were trying to protect our Constitution, 20 years ago because it's just too easy. The Chamber of Commerce, the NFIB, the small business owners, all this vast collection of, Buckeye Firearms, all these other groups have been trying to protect the Constitution for decades, literally, because it's too easy for special interests to come in and buy our Constitution, with a bunch of 30-second ads, and, they can pass something that they wouldn't be able to pass through the legislature because the legislature would ask them the hard questions. So for some people, absolutely, it's about abortion. For other people, it's about protecting the ability to do business. For other people, it's for the ability to make sure that nobody can come take away their gun legally. It's all those issues. Our Constitution in the state of Ohio is truly at risk of flip-flopping back and forth on issues because of how much money somebody may want to come throw into Ohio. And while $1 million or $2 million is a lot of money, it's not that money to some people that have a special interest. The casinos would be a good example. They came in, and I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent, but the first year they made billions. So we need to do better protecting our Constitution.
Okay. And what would you say to the folks that say, hey, listen, this Constitution's been in effect since 1912, I believe. Why would we change it?
Yeah,
why change it now?
12. Because we didn't do it 5 years ago, because we didn't do it 10 years ago. The ability through technology and through the dollars that people have make it a greater risk now than it was, 100 years ago, 1912, when they passed this version of the Constitution. There weren't a lot of constitutional amendments, the first 50, 60 years, because it was hard to go to all 44 states and gather the number of signatures. Today, it's not hard at all. I could with $500,000, I could get any issue I wanted put before the voters. I could collect those signatures, I believe. So we need to protect our Constitution. The world has changed a lot since 1912.
That I would agree with for sure. Well, very good. So I'm just wondering, is there anything else you would like to, our viewers to know about this issue one? And again, the election is coming up just right here in August, what was that again?
August
6th?
8th.
August 8th.
And actually, you can go vote today.
Correct.
You can walk into your local board of elections, those ladies and gentlemen will be glad to see you. They'll take great care of you. They'll hand you an absentee ballot. You can fill it out in a few seconds and then vote. It's the only issue on the ballot for this August. And if you listen to this interview at all, you can tell that I strongly believe a yes vote is critical for our ability to protect the Constitution, protect Ohioans, and make sure that we all get tired of these 30-second ads or these little blips of information. And I assure you that we have debated this issue of whether to put it before you for over a year now. And really, the issue has been around at various forums and various debates for at least 20 years, back when I was a Farm Bureau leader over 20 years ago, because it's becoming easier and easier to buy the Ohio Constitution with outside special interests. And that's why I'm urging a yes vote.
Well, very good. And I think that you have very eloquently described your points, and we appreciate you taking time to spend with us today.
It's great to be with you. I
Of
encourage everyone to
course.
vote on August 8th.
Pardon me?
I encourage everyone to vote on August 8th.
Yes, please get out there and vote. And again, it's just one thing to vote on, but it's a very, very important, life-changing thing to vote on. So you need to get out and do it. Thank you so much, State Representative Bob Peterson. And so wonderful that he took the time to spend with us this morning. And we greatly appreciate it. Thanks to him.
And so thank you again to Bill Martin, Dennis Reinhart, and Ohio Representative Bob Peterson for taking the time to talk with us. So again, that was our discussion on issue 1. If you missed some of the beginning of the video and you just joined us now, so we originally heard from Bill Martin and Dennis Reinhart speaking in opposition of issue 1, and that was Ohio Representative Bob Peterson speaking in support of issue 1. So again, issue 1 is a special election that is happening in Ohio on August 8th, and there is only one thing on the ballot, and it is issue 1. If you are still unsure of how you're going to vote or unsure exactly what issue 1 really means, again, in the Wednesday, July 19th edition of the Telegram, we had this insert, which has all of the information. It has a short explanation of the issue. It has the entire language of the amendment, and it also has a pro and a against argument printed in it. So it's very informative. The short explanation again is issue 1 asks eligible Ohio voters to consider an amendment to the Constitution of the State of Ohio proposed by a 2/3 majority of the Ohio General Assembly. The amendment, if approved, would elevate the standards by which the Constitution of the State of Ohio may be amended. Any newly proposed constitutional amendment placed on the statewide ballot must receive at least 60% of a vote to be approved. Any petition proposing to amend the Constitution of the State of Ohio that is filed with the Secretary of State on or after January 1st, 2024 must contain the signatures of at least 5% of eligible voters residing in each county of the state. Finally, the amendment specifies that new signatures may not be added to a petition proposing to amend the Constitution of the State of Ohio once it has been filed with the Secretary of State on or after January 1st, 2024. So that is the sort of short explanation of what issue 1 is. So again, I hope people found that informative. I hope you appreciate something from both sides or just one side, however it may be. Again, you can vote right now. You can go to the County Board of Elections and vote right now, or you can vote on Election Day on August 8th. So thank you for everyone for joining us for our talk on issue 1. We have a little bit of time left in the show, so I'm going to invite our intern Dylan, if he wants to come over here and join me. We got a couple other things we can talk about. But I'm also going to put Dylan on the spot a little bit here. So for those of you who may not know, Dylan is a recent high school graduate. You are 18 years old.
Yep.
Have you voted before?
No.
Dylan. So Dylan is, new 18-year-old, has not voted before. Do you think this is going to be your first election?
I think so, yeah.
You think so? Do you think you understand this? Do you think you kind of have it made up in your mind, or you still kind of like have questions about it?
Well, before watching the video, I didn't know anything about it. I just heard a few radio ads, a few ads on Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But after watching that and, watching you film it, I do think I understand it a lot better. I'm still a little questionable of some things. It's kind of a bigger issue, so it's hard to fully grasp it, but I definitely grasp it much better and probably will vote.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw out this challenge. Now, if you do not, it sounds like you maybe don't have your mind totally made up yet, so I'm not trying to pressure you, but I will offer to drive you as soon as we finish the show. I will drive you over to the Board of Elections and we can both go vote.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Only if you feel like you really understand the issue. I'm not trying to pressure you into it, but I do want to encourage you to get out and exercise your constitutional right to vote.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do, and you see a little less of that nowadays.
The voter turnout for the last election here in Jackson County was pretty abysmal. It was shockingly low.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one race had a total of 9 people voted, I think.
Yeah, that's not a lot at all.
Yeah. But yeah, so issue 1. So thank you for everyone that watched that. We will have that video available on demand for people to watch later, listen back to in the podcast, watch on YouTube, watch on Facebook.
Yep, there's a lot of availability of it.
Yeah, it is very available. All right, moving on to a more fun topic. We went to a pretty cool event yesterday, didn't we, Dylan?
Yeah, I did like it.
You did like it. Very cool.
I did like it.
All right. You want to explain to people what we saw?
Yeah, so at Rowdy's, Elle King was there, and she filmed a segment for a TV show, and people that attended and were invited were allowed to be like part of the crowd for it.
Mm-hmm. So for those that aren't familiar, Elle King is a pop star of sorts that has some ties to Wellston. A lot of family that still lives in this area. She had a big hit with the song X's and O's, was nominated for a couple of Grammys.
Yeah, so I listened to that a lot, actually.
Yeah, you like that song? Yeah, they played on KOV quite a bit still. But yeah, so she was back in Jackson, like I said, where she has family in this area, filming a TV show called Secret Celebrity Renovation. You ever heard of that show?
No, not until today.
I had never heard of the show either, but it's on CBS, and it features celebrities getting to do a home renovation for somebody that helped them along the way. I'll look it up so I can talk about it a little bit better. So this is a CBS reality show. It has first episode aired in July of 2021. So I was flipping through. So there have been 2 seasons, and season 3 is in production. I assume that her episode will be airing in part of season 3, but don't know that for a fact. But yeah, these are some of the celebrities that have appeared on this show. And in traditional Main Street TV fashion, what I'm going to do is name some famous people and then let Dylan tell us that he doesn't know who they are. And before we get too far into this, in defense, I don't know who most of these people are either. Number 1, first episode, season 1, Wayne Brady. Do you know who Wayne Brady is?
No, I don't.
So obviously Dylan did not grow up on the Chappelle Show. So Wayne Brady is an actor, talk show host. He hosts. It comes on after the Price is Right. I forget what it's called now.
I do know Price is Right. I watched that.
Yeah. Then the second guest was Anthony Ramos, who I don't know. He is a Broadway actor. He was in Hamilton. I do
Oh.
recognize this picture. So that's very cool. Then Chris Paul. You know Chris Paul?
Nope.
Chris Paul, NBA player. Then they had Eve. You know Eve?
Nope.
All right, Eve's a rapper. Then they had Laura Elena. I don't know her. Lorna Elena. She was on American Idol. Okay.
Yeah, I don't even watch American Idol.
I don't watch American Idol either. They had Jesse Tyler Ferguson,
Nope.
who's on the sitcom Modern Family. They had Paula Abdul. Surely you've heard of Paula Abdul.
Nope.
All right. Famous singer and dancer Paula Abdul, big pop star in the 80s. Emmett Smith,
Nope.
retired NFL player. Man, I don't know. I don't think you're gonna know. Well, you will know one. There's one person on this list that if you don't know, I will be more dumbfounded by you not knowing who like any other celebrity is. Boomer Esiason.
Nope.
He's a retired NFL player. He does NFL commentary now. Boston Rob.
No.
So I did not know who Boston Rob is, but Boston Rob was actually at the event last night. So Boston Rob is he was on the reality show Survivor.
Okay, Matt told me about that, and I did watch Survivor.
So that dude was there last night. So I have not seen Survivor since the first season. Shout out to Richard Hatch. Was that his name? Won the first season of Survivor.
I don't think I finished it.
Well, you were maybe not born yet when that happened. Were you born?
2004.
Yeah, this was probably like 2000.
So I probably only saw
Yeah.
later seasons.
Yeah. All right. Then season 2 was Billy Gradell. I don't know who he is. He is on the sitcom Mike and Molly. Debbie Gibson. You know Debbie Gibson? She
Nope.
was like a 80s rock star. Nathan Chin.
Nope.
He's an Olympic figure skater. Elena Ashford.
Nope.
American singer, songwriter, dancer. She was in several Broadway shows, including Wicked and Legally Blonde.
Okay, I've seen Legally Blonde.
You've seen the Broadway show? Or you've
No,
seen the movie?
the movie.
I think she was in the Broadway show. I apologize to this gentleman in advance. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. Yokesh Ambudker. He's an American actor and rapper. Not familiar with him. This is really some like A-list celebrities. Candy Burris.
No.
She is a American television producer and TV personality. Yeah. All right. Here is the one. Maybe I should save this for last. I'm going to save this one for last. Aaron Donald. He's an NFL player.
Nope.
And Nicole Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, it's not Schwarzenegger. So she is an American singer-songwriter. All right, this is by far the biggest celebrity that they had on this show. Season 2, episode 7. If you do not know who this person is, like this will trump every random celebrity that you did not know who was.
All right.
Shaquille O'Neal?
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
thank God.
Yep, I know that one.
I was like, if you don't know who Shaq is.
So what is that, like 1 out of 20?
It's 1 out of 19, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But anyway, yeah. So the show, season 3 will premiere. I assume it airs on regular CBS. I don't think it doesn't say you have to have the app or anything. So I think it's just on regular CBS. So season 3 will premiere on August 4th with a, I guess it must be a 2-part premiere with Phil Kinnoham, who is from the reality show The Amazing Race, and Max Chirot, who was in the 2004 adventure comedy film Catch That Kid. Not familiar with that one. And then the 3rd episode, which does not have a release date, stars Devin Booker, who is an NBA player. But anyway, enough of that. So last night, Elle King made a sort of surprise appearance at Rowdy's Smokehouse in Jackson. I think Dylan's got some photos he wants to throw up. So yeah, so there she is.
Photographed
there.
by James Hamilton.
Yeah. So on live from the porch at Rowdy's Smokehouse, as Porterhouse would say. So they put on a little concert, had a film crew there filming it for this show. It was very fun, very big atmosphere. We, of course, are at Rowdy's quite a bit for the homegrown happy hour.
Every Thursday night.
And this was the biggest crowd. I was told that this was basically the biggest crowd that they'd ever had out on that patio. So it was very cool. She played a couple of songs, and then she did an autograph line. And she hung out for about 3 hours signing autographs and taking pictures with stuff. And then I think she hung out a little bit longer just having fun, as you do. But were you going to say?
No, but I did want to say one thing.
Yeah.
So this photo was taken by James, and then this photo was also taken by James. All pretty well done photos.
Yes.
And the one thing you can't see in these photos is what I have photographed.
Yeah, me standing on
this
the table.
This photo was taken by me.
And by Dylan Euler of me standing on the picnic table.
Yes. And I would say these are some of my better works.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you should probably frame it. I'll sign it for you if you want.
Oh, I'd love a signature. Yeah. I'll put it right on top, like right on top of my bed, like above, like where I wake up every morning.
I don't want you looking at me when you're laying in bed.
But yeah, this was yesterday.
Yeah. So that was a very cool event. And, a lot of people, when they saw this on Facebook, they're like, oh, man, hate that I missed that. Well, I have good news for you, because Elle King will be performing at the Foxfire Music Festival on the Ashland Riverfront in Ashland, Kentucky. That is September 30th September 30th through October 1st. Got my tongue tied.
Is that every day?
So it's 2 days. It's a 2-day festival. It's Saturday and Sunday, and this is a pretty cool lineup. On Saturday, the headliner is Morgan Wade. Then also performing is Cameron Marlowe. I guess that's how you say his name. I'm not sure. Uncle Lucius, Kat Hasty, Kendall Marvel, Pillbox Patty. Here's one Dylan might know. Corduroy Brown, Emmy Davis, and Justin Pruitt. Of course, I shout out Corduroy Brown because he was on Homegrown Happy Hour. So if you enjoyed him on Homegrown Happy Hour, you can check him out at the Foxfire Music Festival.
Yep, that is Roy Brown. Don't mess it up. It's
not that hard to spell. And then on Sunday, Elle King is the headliner, and it'll also feature Larry Fleet, Tanner Ousley, Junior Carroll, Noah Tyler, Cassandra Lewis, and here's another name that might sound familiar, Jace Turley. And the reason that name might sound familiar is he is our guest this week on Homegrown Happy Hour. So this Thursday, you can hear Jace Turley live from the porch at Rowdy's Smokehouse as part of Homegrown Happy Hour. And if you like that show, again, you might want to check out this music festival in Ashland on September 30th and October 1st. So how's that sound, Dylan?
That sounds pretty cool.
It does sound pretty cool. You've not been to too many concerts before.
I have never been to a live concert.
Well, you were at a live concert last night.
Yeah, that was like the first thing.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, Homegrown Happy Hour, but like an actual concert yesterday was probably the closest I've seen.
So you have never been to a live music performance anywhere other than the porch at Rowdy's Smokehouse.
Yep, that's been it.
So maybe this is a good opportunity because this isn't that far away. It's about an hour drive down State Route 93 to get to Ashland, Kentucky. And if you've never seen a show on the river there at Ashland, it's very cool. I saw a few shows there when I was about your age. I saw the Grand Funk Railroad.
Grand Funk Railroad. Yeah, never heard of that one before.
Yeah, they were kind of like a 70s band. I saw at least one other show there, but I can't remember for the life of me who it was. But it's a cool spot to watch a show. Yeah, and you can get your tickets for that now. That is at ParamountArtsCenter.com. Of course, it's a Paramount Theater in downtown Ashland. Beautiful old theater, reminiscent of some of the other old theaters in the area, such as the Marquee that we have here in Jackson, except bigger and better.
Bigger marquee. Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of want to see that.
They've got some cool shows coming up at the Paramount Arts Center. I was looking at this the other day. They're gonna have Clint Black's gonna be there this coming up. When is that? August 10th. Rhonda Vincent's gonna be there on August 17th. There's a few other shows that look pretty cool. They may have already happened. Puddle of Mud's gonna be there.
Okay, I kind of want to see that one.
Yeah,
Puddle of Mud
on
That
August
just sounds
25th.
exciting.
Yeah. Oh, here's one I'm into. Juvenile's going to be there on August 26th. You know who Juvenile is?
Nope.
He had a song about backing something up.
Was it a truck?
It was not a truck. Well, it was a dump truck, but not that kind of dump truck. Tom Arnold's going to be there on September 8th. Maya, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band's going to be there. Oh, here's one we've been talking about. We've been talking about the Starbrick Music Festival a lot. It's happening in Nelsonville. That's next weekend, I believe.
Can I take a guess at this one?
What is it?
Skinny Molly?
No, Hairball's going to be there.
Hairball.
Hairball's going to be at the Paramount Arts Center on September 22nd. And so if you've missed us talking about Hairball, they are just like the ultimate like hairband tribute. It's really cool. Well, Dylan, thank you for joining me up here to talk these last 15 minutes, talking about Hairball and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and the Porch at Rowdy's Smokehouse. And thank you to everybody that joined us for our more pertinent conversation about issue 1. And we are out of time for today.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and we will be back here same time tomorrow on Main Street TV. Dylan, you can just hit Command E on that keyboard.
Okay.
And that'll send us out of here, and we'll see you tomorrow.